this video, we will continue to talk about Octane and we will focus on daylight system. So we will focus on natural light and we will continue. In the previous lessons, we saw how we can work with the basic tools, the basic features. We saw how we can import models from external sources and how we can create scenes, how we can manage the various objects in the scene, the materials, and especially in terms of the Octane features, we experimented with the lighting and especially the environment. So we started to talk about simple environment like simple color and the more complex daylight system, which is composed of a sky, sphere, and of a disk, which is representing the sun. And we saw that this is a procedural system that we can use for exteriors and natural light. And also we started to experiment with the artificial lights, and in this case we use the area light. So we will continue to go more into deep with these objects, with these features, with these tools in the following videos. In this video in particular, we're gonna go more in the daylight system. So we're gonna talk about more the natural light, the external light, the exteriors. And I'm gonna go back here to previous scene where we have this simple cube and the monkey head here, Susan, the Blender mascot. And we continue to work with the editors that we and the interface that we already set up in the previous videos. And again, we're going to concentrate in particular on the world properties and on the daylight mode and also the planetary mode, which is also kind of an external setting with external lighting, but it's more like for scenes that are in the space. So after the atmosphere, outside the atmosphere. Now we can see here that an important part in the render settings are light IDs. We already saw this previously. Here we can enable, disable lights. We can filter the lights. We can decide if we want to see only the sun or only the environment, or we want to see both, or we want to see other lights. So it's a management tool. It's really handy when you have like a more complex system of light, which is gonna include not only the sun and the environment, like we are doing right now, but also additional lights and other devices that emit lights with the emission. And we're also gonna see a little bit of that in the last part of the video, a little bit of emission and additional light. But first we're gonna start with the daylight environment, the simple daylight environment. And then we're gonna move into the planetary, and later we're gonna explore more the texture using HDRIs and other images. So we want to concentrate more on this because we are still keeping it simple, and little by little we are increasing the level of complexity. We're going to increase it here with the planetary, and also we're gonna little by little start to work with the textures, with the materials, with other effects, just as we did from the beginning of the course. But just as promised, we will increase little by little the level. So let's start here. And another important feature of the daylight, so let's start with the daylight, is the turbidity. Turbidity is kind of like of the density of the atmosphere. So when you have like higher value, light tends to get more scattered around, creating this sort of like foggy effect, especially on the background. We are not inside the fog, but we can see like the fog on the background. And we already talked about also the rotation of the sun and the location of the sun, but we can affect that also with the north. So if we move the north, if we move the power, if we move the turbidity, these are all basic parameters that we can start to use now, and you can see how they affect the overall results of the daylight. Now we can create more natural looks, or we can do something more extreme, like we can change the sky color into something colored. So think about that you are not on Earth, but you are like on Jupiter or on Mars or whatever planet, probably you have a different atmosphere with different colors. And so you can change here the sky color and also the sunset color. Now, for the sunset color to be seen, you need a sunset setting for your sun, essentially. So if we unlink the sun position, we can use the sphere, as we already saw also previously. So you can click and drag with the left mouse on the sphere, you will adjust the position of the sun. But if you want to work with the node sun direction, these are going to be like more accurate. So you can define latitude, longitude, we already saw that, the month, the day, the timing, the time of the day, and so on. So when you want to create more situation, you can also copy and paste this node. So you can do Ctrl+C or Ctrl+V, or right click, copy and paste, or duplicate if you want. So right now I can create 3 different situations. I can create day, night, sunset. So this is pretty handy when you want to test different settings, different time of the day. So I'm just going to work with the local time here. And this is now a night hour. So if I go to 0, this is going to be like completely dark. But if I start to increase just a little, there's going to be just a slight environmental lining. So I can do day, I can do night, and I can do sunset if I go, or dawn, dusk and dawn situation, just by getting closer to the early hours of the day or the day later. So I think this is a good sunset situation right here. And I can adjust again latitude, longitude. This is gonna affect everything. The month is gonna affect because we have different situations on winter, on the summer period. So try to find the best, the one that you like the most. And I really like this one here. I like this pink sunset effect more than like a yellowish. Now this depends again on the temperatures, on the clouds. So it's really a matter of how the sky it is. So you can change this anytime. You can make it more yellowish, more orangish, more bluish, more purplish, whatever you like. So this is a combination that I like. It's a kind of a cold feeling, but it's okay. And let's adjust also the sun size. Now the sun size affects the reflections on the object, and we can see that also like a disk. So we're gonna see that later. Now I'm trying to change also the ground. Now the ground is the bottom part of the sky sphere. So you have like an hemisphere. So the top, mid part of the sphere is gonna be the sky, and the bottom part is gonna be the ground. Now if you change the ground where it's gonna start, if you lower that value, let's say 1, it's gonna start right away, so you can see it. Otherwise, it's kind of invisible. And this is important also for the planets, if you use like Planetary later. But let's move on. And also you have blending. Now this is also important because you can blend more or less this ground, and you can make it like fade out faster or well, further. And this is the disk, by the way. So I can now see it. And this glowing effect, that's not actually the sun size, but that's due to the turbidity. So turbidity creates this nice halo around the sun sphere that looks really magical, really, you know, scenographic, really dramatic. So here you can see we are affecting the actual size of the sun, and then you have the turbidity, which affects the halo around it. And you can see that by changing turbidity, by changing the sun size, and all these other parameters, we create different situation. Also the power. So right now I need to increase the power because I